Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Dead Unicorn, the tabletop role-playing game club. My name is Corey, and today we're going to look through the Cypher system rulebook. I did a review of it about a month ago, a month and a half, maybe 2 months, and people had some opinions about what I had to say. Maybe I went a little too far. I don't know. I said what I felt at the time.
But
Today,
you're growing.
today I'm joined by Tarek and Sasha. Say hi, guys.
Hi guys.
Oh, Sasha, you're frozen.
Oh, crap.
Yeah.
No. Why?
Let me turn off your. No, I turned off your video and turned on your video, and you're still frozen.
Well, just ignore it, I guess. I'll turn off my video.
Maybe turn off your video and then turn it back on.
We got some technical difficulties, guys. I'm sorry I didn't notice.
Just ignore it? Question mark?
Uh,
I can't fix it right now. I don't have software on my computer for
Can you refresh the page?
I don't think that's gonna help.
We'll see how that works.
We still have audio for her though. So.
Yeah, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, but now there's a big question mark where she should be. I hope she comes
that's
back.
right.
Well, I mean,
There she is. We got you back.
She's back.
Okay. So let's go over all of our kind of how we've interacted with the Cypher system in the past. I was one of the first. I early on I did the Kickstarter for Numenera, which is a Cypher system setting, the first one. In fact, there was no Cypher system when that was created.
We really bought into it too. We even did a live stream of the actual the video game when it came out.
Yeah, the video game. And this is the second version of the Cypher system rules. And I've run Numenera. I've played Numenera. Tarek has also played Numenera, right?
I have played Numenera, yes.
But Sasha has
played
not.
Numenera and Cypher systems.
Sasha, for Sasha, we did like a generic. What we did was Mr. Tarask's
Diamond Throne? Was it Diamond
No,
Throne?
no, it's not called Diamond Throne. It was what was it called? It was kind of a generic
Storm shipwreck on something.
Isle of the Dreaded Accursed.
There we go.
Yes. And we used the character creation from Diamond Throne. It says Diamond Throne says Monty Cook's Diamond Throne. And it actually has nothing to do with Monty Cook, other than he wrote the original world way back, and then he licensed it out to these guys, Weeby Dragons, and they wrote a book, and the book is the books that came out with are not great.
I like them. The power balancing is terrible.
The power balancing was terrible. There are rules that are missing in them.
And that don't make sense.
There are rules that don't make any sense.
You
have to literally
make it up as you go.
or make it up as you go, because they needed better editors.
Was an issue.
They needed editors who would actually play with the content.
Who would play test it.
Yes.
They just needed another round of play testing, I think, and balancing editors, people who are going to go back and look through it and be like, why are spellcasters so much more powerful than everything else?
We're not reviewing Diamond Throne today. Maybe we'll do that in the future. We're just reviewing the Cypher system as it is. And Tarek, you've got a good idea of kind of what character creation is like for it. And Sasha has more of an idea of what the rules, the regular rules of the game is, even though she got a terrible version of the character creation with Diamond Throne.
Yeah, it was a little painful for her. But we worked together. We got through
really.
It.
The only things that were confusing were some of the more specific rules.
No, I meant in play.
Creation was the same.
No,
I meant
in play. It's actually really they're similar, but it was a lot different than.
I just used a different race, but like it's not like it was that vastly different. I don't think.
I meant more getting used to the game, like rules, the system rules, because it was
So if you're not familiar with the Cypher system, it banks itself on being a universal role-playing system. You can take whatever setting, whatever world, and you can plug it in, and while you have to do work to kind of make your game setting feel like your game setting, most of the work is already done when it comes to powers, when it comes to classes, all of those things. Like, you can just grab and then plug into your game, and it should have a great feel to it. It should work. It should be balanced. And then you can add on top of that whatever you need. It's supposed to be a solid base that you build on. And I'm kind of excited to write in this world. They even have an open game license for Cypher system, so anybody can just write and produce games with this rule set without, there's no, like, they're not taking anything off the top here for it.
There are no royalties.
Yeah. It's nice. It's good. And they have
it's GURPS without the G. It's SERPs with the C. Cypher.
Right. So let's start with I got the book open in a PDF, and we're gonna talk about the first thing they put in the book, the level system. So everything that a player interacts with has a level to it, from 1 to 10. And that tells you what difficulty is going to be, right? So when you roll a D20, you have to make 3 times the difficulty on that D20. And then assets, which give you bonuses.
You're using revised?
Huh?
You're using revised book?
Yeah, I'm using the revised book, yeah. Cypher System Rulebook Revised. I'm on page 10. So assets will reduce the level, and hindrances will increase the level, thus increasing the difficulty. I would have felt, for me, that a bonus should just increase your die roll instead of reducing the difficulty. But they made the choice that number go down is better than number go up is better. And
I don't mind it, to be honest.
Huh?
I don't mind it, to be honest.
You don't mind it?
No.
Sasha?
I hate it, actually. It's horrible. It's awful. I have very strong opinions about it. I am kind of like a rules junkie. I love rules. I pick up rules really easily. I memorize rules. No, that was bad creation, in my opinion. There are much easier ways they could have accomplished the same thing that would have given very similar results, and they chose the most obtuse, difficult thing. Like, when I think about that, it's about as unintuitive as, like, maybe like what's that system that you were telling me about in old D&D where it was like how to calculate your AC? Yeah, it's about as bad as Thaco. Maybe not as bad, but I would grade it on the scale of close to Thaco. I hate it.
I mean, you don't need you don't need an advanced mathematics degree to do this one.
You don't need an advanced mathematics degree for Thaco either, but if you exaggerate, you need it for both.
I mean, I think just simple, like, increase the TN by 1, decrease the TN by 1 is
not
pretty
intuitive.
Straightforward.
It's not intuitive at all, and the language is extremely convoluted. It just doesn't make sense. I mean,
asset hindrance. It's just like get a +1, get a -1.
Not the asset and hindrance part. It's the levels. The levels part.
The TN levels, like, it's just the level. That's like your TN. It's like a DC, but
falling on deaf ears.
Everything works off of what the level is.
Here's why everything is 3 times level, right? It's for NPC creation. So when you have an NPC, every NPC also is just assigned a standard level. And oh my god, no, my cat is up where my minis are.
In the background.
Oh no. Please don't knock things down. Please.
Now you've spoken it into existence, things are going to come down.
Okay. So
so worried. You can see the fear in your eyes.
Yeah. That's real fear.
So when they make an NPC, hit points are 3 times the level. You can get. Let me go to an NPC sheet here, and I can kind of show you. So you can make NPCs real easy, real quickly. So here's a level 5 NPC. Its health is 20 because it's 5 times level, and it does damage equal to its level. This one does 6 points, so it does 1 more point than regular. But most, if you see, like, this guy's level 6, Xenoparasite, and does 6 points of damage. So you can just say, because of its level, that's how much damage it does. And it makes things real easy. And
for the GM.
Yeah. Get out of here.
Knocked stuff over and took off.
Get out
she knows she did some crime. She did a criminal thing and then ran.
Okay, can y'all hear me still? Is everything okay?
Yes.
Okay. So, it's supposed to make NPCs easy. That's why there's a 3 times level thing happening. So you gotta roll above 3 times your level, and assets reduce level and hindrances increase level. Personally, I don't mind the 3 times level thing as much, but I would say that assets should just give people a +3 and hindrances give them a -3 to their roll.
That would simplify things, yeah, because then it would make it like derived attributes. We've all mentioned that a lot of times derived attributes are just a way to convolute something a little more than it needs to be. Like, who cares what your strength attribute is? We want your modifier. Yeah. Same difference here, right? We don't really care what your level is. We care what your like number is. We want to know what we need to roll on the die, and that's really what you're looking for. So doing it in +3s, if you wanted to do it that way, it's just a way to categorize what you're like talking about and make it easier to reason about. I think it's pretty straightforward, but I mean, I can see where it would be kind of convoluted to somebody else. Simplifying it down into terms of like +3, -3, yeah, that works. But
so I'm gonna go on.
It was easy enough for me to grok. I get why it would be frustrating for somebody else who's learning.
Oh yeah,
It's just too many different ways to structure a single dice roll. A single dice roll you shouldn't have to keep like 3 different rule sets in mind to figure out what the fuck your dice roll means. Right. It should be simple.
So
that's the problem.
If I tell a person, oh, it's a level 3 roll, and people are like, level 3, so that's a 9, so I'm rolling a 9. Why can't you just say, oh, it's a 9 or more? The TN is 9. Why can't you just say that?
Exactly. And then not only do you just not have a flat modifier to your roll, now you have to keep in mind how it modifies the thing that you're trying to hit, which is then going to modify the number you need to reach, which is, it's just too many things. It's too many things.
I can see that. I don't think it's that big of a deal to be like, here's a hindrance to this, so it's a level 2, so now you only need a 6.
Well,
you know what
so
I mean?
my biggest gripe, and I'm sure we'll get back into this as we go through here, is that Cypher system feels like it's kind of the opposite of what I'm used to for most games, where in favor of making the GM's life easier, they put that burden onto the players. Yes. And I think I do not agree, and I do not like that kind of game design.
You'll find that is very common in Cypher. Like everything is there.
And that is kind of makes Cypher lower down on my personal tier list for me. Well, I do believe that GMs should be shouldering more burden, because you are at that point GMing is becoming an advanced player, and a game should have a low skill cap in order to get into it. Should not have like a high level that you have to reach in order to start playing.
I think because they've simplified just about everything else in play, and the GM's job is to really focus in on narrative and storytelling in Cypher, making their job easier by just making it so that the players have to remember their ability stuff is like fine to me. But I think the point of making it easier on the GM is so that you also don't have the like aggression against the GM. Like, it's not a competition between you and the GM. It's a competition between you and the world, and setting everything as a level for the GM is almost like, I don't have to run an NPC and be like, okay, the NPC has this this like stat block and blah blah blah, blah, and now I'm rolling dice against you. The only person who rolls dice in Cypher is the player, and I kind of like that system. It makes it so that you're not fighting the GM, you're fighting the world, right? You're interacting with the world.
The GM still gets to decide which of the superpowers the NPC uses and dictates how the flow of the game is, and can even use a GM intrusion to either to cause complications. Yeah. We'll get to a GM intrusions real quick. I just want to hit on page 11. It talks very, very briefly about weapons. Light weapons inflict 2 points of damage, but give you an asset. Mediums inflict 4, and heavy inflict 6, but you use 2 hands. And that's pretty much it, other than some weapons are ranged and some weapons are not. They don't add special abilities. Everything, I think this is way too genericized.
It feels very simple. It doesn't feel like there's a whole lot of variation or flavor to be had at all.
It is very generic, and it gets complicating. It gets complicated in other systems, like the one that we played, where there were like in between weapons that they were trying to add flavor with. They just became very confusing.
Yeah, what I would do, they were trying to be like, oh, there is like the regular version of the weapon, and then there's the advanced one. But the advanced were all still just kind of the same with a different word next to it too. They just did like 1 more point of damage. I'm like
more damage. Or gave you 2 attacks in one go.
I think weapons, like, oh, this is a rope weapon, so should entangle somebody, and there should be rules to reflect that. And there should be, like, this weapon, if it hits you, like, and you exceed their difficulty by 6 or 10 or something, that it could daze a person because it's a blunt weapon, and that means you hit them in the head, or
it pierces through armor. Making
weapons that are so similar where they don't have even different types of damage, they all do the same number and they just have a category, and then not giving them any sort of special properties seems kind of like a failing. You made your weapons super simple. You could have taken that opportunity to give them something unique, because there's no rules to remember about these at all. There's nothing complicated at all about these. So that was the time to give these weapons something.
They do add a little bit of complexity in terms of like the weapons are very genericized, but your main sources of doing damage tend to be from your character's abilities and like layering stuff on top of it that adds kind of dynamicism to it. Exactly. But I agree, you could still get away with adding a lot more.
But then your weapon choice doesn't matter, so why bother having weapons at all?
Well, that's
just don't have weapons.
Other than, is it light, medium, or heavy?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. But you could add some dynamism to the weapons as another layer of like types of weapons or what have you, and it would work just as well. It would be just as simple, but add some extra depth, which I think this game needs.
What I'm trying to say is that, like, if there's only a difference in light, medium, heavy, and it's 2, 4, 6, and then 1 is 2 hands, weapons are so simple that there's no need to have weapon rules or weapon categories. You can just attach them to a class. So this class uses light or medium weapons, or this class uses light weapons, and when you make any attack, pick any weapon. You could have a scythe, you could have a greatsword, you could flavor it however you want. It just does 2 points of damage.
Yeah.
Then pick this class, when it makes a weapon attack, it does 4 damage. Like, you don't even need to have weapons as items at that point, because there's nothing there.
It's like an MMORPG where you find all of these different disparate pieces of equipment and it makes your character look weird. So the MMO people decided, oh, you can just look like whatever you want. You can put a different skin over your character.
Like glamour it or put a skin on.
Yeah, and it just like, you can look however you want. You're just, the stats underneath are the same.
Yeah, at that point, if there's nothing different, why even bother? Just say you can play with whatever weapon your crazy imagination can come up with. Still does 4 damage.
Yeah, still does 2 damage.
2 damage for you.
I think this game would benefit from just a tiny bit of flavor. Not saying one type of weapon does 1 extra point of damage because it's super special, but just saying like, this one is, goes through armor with ignores 1 point of armor, or this one can entangle a person, or this one can daze a person, just that kind of stuff. just a little bit
something to make your weapon selection actually matter.
It does bleed into, like I was saying before, like your different combat roles and the stuff that we'll get into later, this class stuff does try to fill in the gaps there to give you some variety. But I agree so much that the items themselves, given that you have things like ciphers and like artifacts or whatever, like give the items themselves some extra meaning that can do stuff that won't confuse players. As a generic role-playing game, it's very easy to code that stuff in, and then just layer it on top.
Range.
Or literally just remove weapons and add it as a class feature.
Get rid of everything.
Or
if you don't
layers...
want to make them fancier, just remove them as their own separate rule set, add them into a class.
Or make it as an advancement. If you want your weapon to do extra fancy things, take an advancement that unlocks a certain number of these traits for your weapon.
I have a role-playing game. I have a role-playing game called Pandemonium, and its weapon rules say, all weapons do the same amount of damage, and their justification for it is, does a knife kill you any less than like a missile, like an arrow? Just
you're
like,
dead anyway.
After who cares? One stab, you're probably gonna die anyways.
Yeah,
you've been stabbed. Range and speed. So range is done in immediate distance, short distance, long distance, very long distance, right? And one of the biggest things, I had a player get up and leave because they could not move and attack at the same time. They were like, I do not like what's it called?
Positioning?
They didn't like the action economy.
Economy.
The action. They were like, why can't I just move and attack in the same round and same thing like all of the other games? And I was like, well, you have to make a level 4 speed check. And they looked at me strangely, like, what happens if I don't make it? Do I lose my action? And the rules are very vague on what happens if you, I have said that you can still move an immediate distance and attack.
Why not attempt the check every time? Because you could move. Yeah. That's a very strange rule, in my opinion, as well.
I kind of get it. I kind of get why you want to gate your action economy so that it's not like people just are running rampant doing all kinds of stuff. Because there's so many things you can do in this game. They're like the freedom of like abilities is so wild. I don't get why they didn't go with something more generalized in terms of your action economy to standardize it to be like, you get this, this, and this. That's it. Every turn.
They did standardize it. It's one action. You do one thing. Yeah. You can move, or you can attack, or you can pull something out.
I wanna say something here.
But I mean standardize a variety of.
So I want to bring something up here. I kind of agree with that player. I do kind of agree with that player. And maybe not for the reasons that you might think. It's not just because I'm used to it and it's kind of stupid that they don't do it here. It's more like combat takes a long time. In any system, time slows down, right? When you're doing combat, you'll be doing combat for a very, very short period of time in game, and it's going to take you a very long time. And combats can stretch multiple sessions, and people have turns, and that's where they're using the bulk of their character in RPGs that are like combat focused, including Cypher, right? Like most of your abilities are all for like encounters, whether they're social but mostly like combat encounters, right? So when you can only do one thing on your turn, and that one thing is something as lame as, well, I have to move, I have to reposition, I have to move. That is a boring ass turn.
Yep.
And I do agree that you should have options for action economy, and you should have more. If you're gonna be really strict with your action economy, you want to make sure that you're not including the least valuable and least interesting things that you can do in a combat as a full action. Like, movement should just be free. It shouldn't be considered, you could have a set amount of movement each round or whatever, and then if you want to do an extra movement, like L5R does it, you have a small amount of movement for free, right? And then if you want to do more, there's a special action you can take.
So actually,
there's other actions you can take to extend your movement.
I actually ran a game.
That's a better way of doing it.
I ran a game where I stole from L5R 3 of the stances, and today on Discord we were having a discussion just about a guy said, "Oh, in One Ring you can do an aggressive attack stance and a defensive stance, and I think Cypher would be great for that." And I was like, "No, buddy, I put in a third stance, movement stance." So I've play tested this exact rule, and I had basically when you attack, you get asset on attack and hindrance on defense. When you go defensive mode, you have hindrance on attack, asset on defense, and when you do movement, you actually get a free move. You can move and attack.
You just get a free movement, no hindrance on anything.
And you get hindrance on attacks and defense.
Oh, really? I thought that would just be a default where you don't get hindrance or benefits on everything. But if you want asset on something, you can swap to the other stances. I think that would have been, a way to do it.
That would be no stance. But yeah, I was just like, you can attack and defend. You just get a hindrance on both of those. That's how I did it. My group really enjoyed that. But maybe like you said, maybe they should just not have a hindrance on anything. They can just move and attack and defend normally.
I have a couple things to point out, and I think I take a separate stance on this. One, L5R got this right in multiple editions.
A movement stance?
Yeah, exactly. L5R got this very right in multiple ways. They had stances all the way back in older editions,
fourth editions,
which was like full attack, full defense, attack, and then there was another stance. I forget what the other stance was, but there was another stance that was there, or like a basic stance, I think. And it gave you those same kind of variety of bonuses and penalties based on what kind of positioning you were taking. But I will say that their approach to saying that movement is an action brings up the value of movement and positioning, and it also brings up the value of character types that focus more on being fast and mobile, because those people will get an advantage on getting mobile actions, where they can take the speed actions and not have to worry about whether they can succeed or not.
So here's why I think.
So it increases the value of those things, and I agree that it is less interesting, except if you're playing one of those characters that is a speedster.
But you could still give people movement and make speedsters just more powerful.
There are
more movement, and it still would be.
But it was how much movement is valuable in that?
Okay, let's let Corey go.
At that point, you devalue.
I need to come in here because there are some caveats, things you hit on that are actually in the game that I need to talk about. So first off, there are classes. If you just take the first level of either Explorer or like a Jack of all trades kind of class, they give you an ability where you can move and attack just normally. If you just spend 1 point of speed, and
exactly.
That makes it a kind of a coveted thing to be able to do. Also, the thing is in this game, and one of the reasons you can't move more than an immediate distance and attack is because there's only 4 range bands. There's immediate, short, long, and it out of your sight, super long. Yeah. So moving a short distance is not as short as you think. Because I'm going to go back to the first page on page, I think it's 11. Let me tell you how far you can move with each of these.
It was definitely longer than the standard move in L5R, which is 3 spaces.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Immediate distance, I think is still
or something.
Range and speed. Here we go.
I thought it was 3 meters.
So 3 meters, yeah. 3 meters is immediate distance. 10 feet. Short distance is 50 meters. Or I'm sorry, 50 feet, 15 meters. And long distance is 30 meters or 100 feet. And then very long distance is 1,000 feet or 30 meters. So yeah, it's about the same as L5R or the other games, which is immediate distance. Not as much as Dungeons and Dragons, though.
I mean, yeah, 50 feet is still longer than Dungeons and Dragons for a full move.
The thing is most here's the thing: if you close with another enemy, that's all of your movement, and they can just attack you on their turn. You want them to close with you.
Yeah.
And then it turns into a standoff where nobody wants to walk
forward. It's just range battle.
You want to walk to the edges of your opponent's movement range so that they're forced to come to you. But then you have range on top of that, and there's so many easy ways to get range in this game that, like, if you're playing anything that has a little bit of range, you can force your opponent to move. So there's their positioning is important in this game, and movement is important. They don't people who focus in on that will be more powerful.
So the creators of this game don't want positioning to be important. They want the reverse to be true. They actually advise not to use minis in this game, so you can do GM intrusions. Basically, if there's no map, then you can just say there was always a trap door below you, and that's a GM intrusion. You can fall through the trap door. Like, there's rocks above you. Well, my character's positioned nowhere near the cliffside. Well, there's rocks falling on you anyways. You shouldn't be using a map, GM. That's your fault. That's what they kind of wanted. So they wanted kind of movement to be less important. Theater of the mind. Yeah. And that's kind of their reasoning. Let's talk about pool, edge, and effort. So you have 3 stats: might, speed, and intellect. They're filled with stamina points that you can spend on all of your special abilities. And then edge reduces the cost of those. And then whenever you do a roll, you can spend effort to lower the difficulty of whatever you're doing. It's a little hard to get. Everybody confuses effort and edge in all of my games. Even if they've played the game for 3 months, they're still going every week for 3 months we've been playing, and they're like, I'm going to spend an edge. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Yeah. But other than that, people pick up on this really simply, really easily. Other than the words and what they mean, they're like, I spend this amount, I reduce it by this, and good stuff happens. What do you guys got to say about it?
I like it, to be honest. I like the idea that you have these pools of effort or energy that you can draw from to be able to power up your abilities, one. And I like the idea that it can power up your capability to succeed, but at a cost of using up some of your energy, right?
Wasn't effort how hard you were trying to do something, and that was a resource pool that you expended, but edge was you purchase it with XP and it just permanently reduces the cost of something? I can't remember.
You kind of got it, yeah. So effort was a cost that you spend. You spend not a cost of XP, but a cost of stamina that you spend to make things that you're doing easier, because basically you're really putting all of your heart and soul into it, right? And edge was something is just like a base stat that doesn't you can increase it with experience points, but it makes, when you spend your stamina, it makes those costs less. Mm-hmm. So for example, if you have a 2 in edge, effort, your first level effort costs 3 points, but you're doing a might and you have 2 in your might edge, so now it only costs you 1 point. Mm-hmm. And that's how it works.
Yep. Unless you have multiple effort.
Does edge only apply when you spend effort on something, or does it apply to any cost, any time you would spend that resource for trying
anytime
to?
You'd spend
That's what I thought it was.
Except for damage. It does not reduce damage, because damage is also taken to your stat pools. And I said I didn't like this in my review. In fact, I said there needs to be a change on this. Something needs to change on this. And I got so much blowback from the fans. People were like, no, this is one of the best parts of the game. And
the fact that you have to spend edge, or that you have to spend effort to get damage?
No, the fact that damage goes into your stats, into the same resources that you use to fight and do things.
No, yeah, I like that idea. It means that you've already spent some of your energy, so you're more vulnerable to attack. right? Like I think that makes sense.
I think the reason why people don't like it is because that means the more damage you get, the harder it is for you to stop being damaged. Maybe that's the like downside of it. So, like, oh, now that I'm hurt, I am actually less and less optimal the more hurt I get at doing things, which is, once again, if you think about it from a gameplay perspective, kind of an odd design choice, because it feels kind of like maybe exponentially punishing. Is that where you're going with it?
So here's the thing. Let's say I play a fighter. Most damage is done to your might stat pool. Let's say I play a fighter and most of my stuff is might. So now I have to spend might points to damage another person. But that also damages me because when they attack me, that also goes to my might. So everything is draining my might away. Right? And when I hit
both my attacks and when someone attacks me, and then when I want to try really hard to attack somebody, that resource is going to go down the drain really fast.
Also, when you're defending, because now you're losing points on effort to defend, and if that defense doesn't work, you also take damage on top of that. So now you're doubly screwed.
It does feel like they stacked a lot on a single resource that is really important for some people. I feel like it would have been more intuitive if they just let you take that damage to any stat.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing. You can defend with any stat. Not any stat. Yeah. You can defend with either might or speed. So you can use your speed and use that effort instead of your might. So your might will take the damage, but your speed is taking the effort. Right? Mm-hmm. So it does break it up a little. That said, once your might is gone, it goes to speed. You'll take a what's it called? Like not a critical hit.
But that just means that your frontline fighter, like the person who's meant to be the best at like hand to hand and who does the most damage, is going to be the first person to become ineffective in a fight because their main stat is also the main stat for getting damage.
So in the last Numenera game,
feels kind of inherently unfair to more martial classes.
Well, you do get abilities that can mitigate some of these things. You get things like armor, which a lot of might classes get access to at higher levels that are like more effective at defending you than other classes.
That's true.
And on top of that, you have recoveries, which you can take a recovery as long as you haven't taken a recovery yet. You can take a recovery that's like one action.
So I get what she's saying though, because I had a frontline fighter in my last Numenera game. I ran at a table. It was a tabletop, and everybody else always had plenty of stamina to go around, and she was always struggling with her points. She was always like, "Oh, I need this, I need that."
Why do I have to be the first one to run out of all of my recoveries? Oh, I'm dragging the party down. I'm the one who needs to rest a lot and take these longer time recoveries. And
I mean, she took it like a trooper. She wanted to play that person that was always in the thick of things and like triggering all the traps and doing all the things.
Yeah. I just mean it definitely feels like a maybe unintended. I don't feel like that result was an intentional part of the game design. It feels like maybe that's something that slipped through the cracks. That was just like a product of the way that they designed the game. That has some drawbacks.
So when your stat pools reach 0, you'll take a what's it called? You'll take, basically it's a wound, right? And the first time you take one of these wounds, the damage track, you'll go from hail to impaired, which means effort costs 1 extra point for every level of effort applied. Then once your second stat pool goes to 0, you become debilitated, which means you cannot take any other actions other than to move and no more than an immediate distance. You're just crawling around on the ground, apparently. And then once your last stat pool goes down to 0, you're dead. The thing is you can take damage to the damage track without your stats going down to 0 if you're like hit by a trap or you fall from a long distance. So, and then that damage, to repair it, you have to spend an entire recovery just to do that damage. Or just to recover from that damage. Otherwise, if it's done from your stats going down to 0, all you have to do is make that stat not 0, and suddenly you're going from impaired to hail. So did you? For me, it's like, did your wound magically go away, or what happened there? Like, that doesn't grok very well in my brain. But
I can see that.
Like, it gets players back and ready to fight real quickly. I mean, if 2 of your stats go to 0, and you're like debilitated, and all you can do is crawl around, you can spend 1 recovery roll, and just as long as you get 2 points, you can put 1 into might and 1 into your first 0 and 1 into your second 0, making both of them 1, and suddenly, boop, you're back up and you're hail. And I don't like that.
it does break immersion a bit, I'll be honest.
It kind of does. This is why I say, like, damage and doing damage is kind of it needs to change. I have some ideas of how to change it, and I want to put these in future videos that I'm going to make. But no, a lot of people, they think that they've told me, they said this is part of the strategy. This is one of the things that they really enjoy about the Cypher system. That it shouldn't change at all, and they make some interesting arguments, and they're almost swaying me on this, especially because it's just easy, and I like easy.
I like it. I agree. It does. What I was gonna say is it does unintentionally advantage int-based characters because they have a pool that is separate from your typical defenses that they can draw from and still take the defenses, though they spend most of their points, their like allocations, into that intellect pool, so they tend to have smaller versions of your speed and might pools. So their base starting level is much lower, which means they're more vulnerable if they do get into frontline fighting. The frontline fighters, you have to like weigh your ability choices, because there's abilities that don't require you to spend any might in order to use, right?
Yeah.
And those are available for you. There's also speed abilities that you can take to kind of enhance your abilities. And there are also abilities that I know about that will swap your defense stat to another defense stat. So if you're putting all your points into might and you're like not getting intellect points very high, you're not getting your speed stat very high, you're vulnerable in the sense of if somebody can specifically target those stats, you're gonna kind of be screwed. But you'll have a bigger might pool. So if you want to play that, I'm kind of a dumb brute who's in the front lines. Like you can do that pretty well, and as long as you've planned out your ability structures and your turns well, you should be able to still manage. Like put on that heavy armor, trudge to the front line, and start smacking. And you should still be pretty fine as long as you're taking your basic attack action, because your attack action is going to be more valuable as a frontline fighter than your like speed stat person who's going to be doing like 2 damage at a
So
time.
we got time to talk about 1 or 2 more things about the Cypher system. I want to know like character creation, XP, NPCs, the ciphers, the titular ciphers. What do you want to talk about? What do you think? What do you have the most to say on something? Sasha and Tarek, who do you want to? What do y'all have anything in mind?
There's a lot to say about both. Like XP is there's something really like inherent in XP that's a problem, that's problematic about the system that I think would be good to cover.
I think you talked about it in your videos, how the XP being tied to both GM intrusions and permanent character advancements is a problem for the game.
Oh, we didn't even talk about GM intrusions. I really need to do that sometime. But let's talk about XP. Let's definitely talk about experience points. So yeah, I talked about it in a video. Basically, for 4 points, for 4 experience points, you. Why is my internet gone?
Uh-oh.
Roll.
Okay, I think we're back. Okay, let's talk about experience. Basically, for 4 points of experience, that's how you level up. You can get one of 4 different types of character advancement. You can get more effort in one of your pools. You can get more points in your pools. You can get a skill or you can get edge. You can get edge in one of your things. You can be able to spend more effort, get a skill, or get points for your stat pools. Then there are other things. For example, there are long-term benefits, which are basically you can gain contacts, or you can gain a skill that will work for the entire like adventure arc until a new arc starts. You can get a wealth or a job title. Short-term benefits and medium-term benefits. You can get like a power that lasts for a couple games, or a skill that works for a couple games. And then immediate benefits is I can reroll a die. You can also do other things, like you can create a player intrusion. No one ever does that. I have never seen a player. I've put them on your character sheets and pointed them out several times. Nobody has ever used a player intrusion in any of my games, and I've been running it for years.
Wow.
I
didn't in the last series that we played, because the player intrusions that I had were really kind of broken.
So, medium and short-term benefits, no one's ever used in any of my games. I've had one player make a long-term benefit, and they made themselves in an artifact that they used. And they made themselves like the ultimate hammer that can just like crack open everything. And I was like, that's cool. Good. I'm like, somebody's spending XP and other than character advancement. So, no, everybody just uses it on rerolls or increasing their character's level. That's all I want to do.
It's not great game design if you give a bunch of options, but some of those options are so unappealing to the player base that they're never used.
I just don't think that they may not care, or they just don't remember that they exist.
Or they don't value it as much as
they're just not
rerolls.
Temporary benefits are never as valuable as literal character advancements.
Yeah.
Never. No matter what. Like if my character dies, I'll just bring in another one that just has the same XP, because not like we're not continuing the campaign. So, and then I'll just play a new character. But actually, I spent a bunch of my XP on rerolls, and now I'm lagging behind my friends in terms of like how strong I am. That feels like shit. And personally, I'm of a very strong opinion that characters in a party should never have less advancement than anyone else. Like, you can multi-class, you can spread yourself thin however you want. Like in L5R, you can take different titles and stuff, but you should never have more of the currency or less of the currency than another player that you need to get your basic advancement. You should be at the same level.
Here.
It's not fun if you're not. That feels bad. It's the same reason why rolling for stats feels bad. You should be at a similar baseline.
If you're spending something on not leveling up, as long as you're spending something on a permanent, like, ability or power or something that is adjacent but cool, right? That will always be there for you. So in the newest book that they put out, It's Only Magic, they have decided to make cantrips or other superpowers that you can get cost only 3 XP. It doesn't level you up, but you get permanent powers. And I'm like, yes. Cool. So here's the thing. When I've started doing this,
they're permanent, though. That's what people will use
I'm doing this going forward. So under character advancement, it says there are some other options. And one of the other options you can do is select another character ability from your list that's already there. 4 XP, and you get another ability, and it character advances you. And I'm like, no, take that out. I'm removing that. That's now a 3 XP thing. You can get as many other powers as you want for 3 XP.
I like that.
Yeah, that just makes sense.
Have a permanent ability. It doesn't level you up. It just gives you
more power.
Like a side grade. Mm-hmm. The other thing is, though, that the fact that you can spend XP on rerolls really only helps the people who randomly roll poorly or just habitually roll poorly, to not feel like they're so behind, or in the situation where they feel like it's desperate that they get this roll, this check needs to succeed, so I'm going to spend that reroll to try to make sure this check succeeds, and then you never see a benefit from that ever again. but there's so much pressure to do that, to be the person who does that, to make sure that we succeed or make sure that XYZ thing happens, that it feels like a necessary loss of XP that you will never see come back. So I 100% agree with you on the little house rule that you made, where you don't you like do not incentivize people to spend their XP doing that. Give some other kind of pool.
Yeah, the way the rule is written disincentivizes action from players. Why would I try to do something because if I fail why would I try to do this scary but consequential thing? Because if I fail, I'm going to lose out on leveling up my character next session because I'm going to have to spend XP to re-roll. Everyone else is going to level up, but I'm going to be behind.
Or just,
why don't you do it? Why don't you do it instead? I don't want to lose XP. I don't want to risk that. It's a difficult
do you think
check.
people
I don't want to...
People at my table might have been doing that, because I had people that just sit back and kind of like let other things.
Do anything, huh?
Yeah, and the people who take all of the action do all of the.
Now you're realizing?
I think some players were doing that at my table.
That's what I'm saying. It's a bad system. There's a problem that it disincentivizes action. The whole system disincentivizes.
That's game theory. That's straight up game theory.
But it feels like I had a lot of fun. I want to say I had a lot of fun playing our little Cypher campaign, but I don't think the system is great. I feel like if I had to make an overarching statement about Cypher system, it feels like I am losing the entire game when I play Cypher. I am losing stuff. I feel like I'm losing the game, which is like I know you can't kind of lose unless you maybe people say, oh, you don't lose at RPGs. Some people are like, well, you only lose if you die, or I only feel like I lose if I die. But there is just so much resource drain in everything. Every single little basic thing you do has resource drain that it's very tiring and cumbersome. And when I play a game, I want to get stuff. I want to find loot and get money and get XP, and I want to do cool things. I don't want to feel like I'm losing stuff all the time, and it just doesn't feel fun. It's very resource management intense and very intimidating, and most people prefer resource management for them to have some control over it, if I'm really creative and really smart.
Number go up feel good, not number go down. Number go down feel bad, number go up feel good.
Entire game is number go down all the time, and that doesn't feel good as a player.
Yeah, I can see.
You know what I mean?
I can see that.
I feel like people who like Cypher have come to accept that and kind of ignore it. But I feel like it's still it's a little bit of a problem,
I feel like
you have to kind of ignore that.
People who enjoy resource management, people who enjoy trying to do creative problem solving, will enjoy this game system a lot more than people who don't. And it's also because there is an epic power fantasy to be had in Cypher because of the abilities. We didn't get into the
Would you like to talk? Would you like to talk about class? Would you like to talk about the three things: descriptor, type, and is that what you want to talk about?
Probably the coolest thing in the game is the three. But I think that is where a lot of the joy for the system comes from, and everything else is resource management. And so if you don't like resource management, it's going to be a rough sell for you. But if you like it, or if you can just hang with it, you'll find a lot of power fantasy to be found here in their character creation system.
I don't like that you use power fantasy.
Well, that's what a lot of people come to role-playing games for, right? Is to fulfill a power fantasy. Or
just try BDSM.
Yeah, okay. There's a lot of resource management there too.
Yeah.
So focuses are great. And I like how they have different focuses for different settings. So you can have the I can turn into the Hulk, or I can shoot fire from my eyes. But I also I'm a guy that just uses two swords really well. I'm that guy.
I'm really good at talking to people.
Yeah.
I have a pet.
I have a pet. Yeah, that's just a focus. I have a pet. My pet does the cool stuff.
The character creation is really interesting. Outside of how really crunchy the game feels a lot of the time, the character creation and the playing the actual characters is really fun. The classes and stuff are really fun. I enjoyed the character that I made with Diamond Throne, even though the rules were super ass. Like, it really fits the niche, and you can kind of really mold the character to be whatever you want. It's very flexible. So I was like, I want to be a mute lady who does divinations and prophesizes through her fucking crow and uses telekinetic powers. And I could do that. I could just do that. That was like a thing that was very easy to accomplish. And it was nice, you know, and I did it very well.
This is the best part of Cypher, is that, like, in Dungeons and Dragons, everybody is contorting themselves in the rules to try and make, I want to kind of make Spider-Man in this game, and maybe sort of I can. I want to make, like, John Wick.
I'm going to have to flavor very heavily and probably get a lot of, will you allow this, from my DM.
Yeah. Can I play an awakened cat in a giant suit of armor that controls it with pulleys and levers and bits of string? And it's like your dungeon master's like, this YouTuber said I could do it, you know? And in Cypher, you can just be like, yeah, sure.
You can play an octopus in a big giant suit of armor.
Yeah, you can play an octopus.
And you could just make it a cat.
That's something in Numenera. That's the best part of this game.
Somebody played that in one of our live play campaigns. Was an octopus alien in a fucking mecha suit. That's like, you can do that.
You're right. This is the best part of Cypher, is the character creation and what you can do and imagine and create.
Yeah, use your imagination. Come up with whatever wacky thing you want to try to do, and you can probably accomplish it pretty easily.
or something close.
Close approximation, yeah.
And you don't have to do much bending of the rules in order to get there, unlike D&D, where you will have to bend and stretch like a lot, everything.
I mean, when you say that in most RPGs, people like you gotta have to be like, take it with a grain of salt. You're like, oh yeah, whatever you can come up with, you can kind of make. But in this game, really, whatever you can come up with, like, be crazy, be creative, and you can still probably come up with.
One of the characters in our Isle of the Dread Curse campaign played an anglerfish person. Exactly. And they wanted to, because very recently in science, we found out that anglerfish males are tiny and they latch on permanently to the female. So they were like, I want to make that into kind of like my character thing. And I was like, okay, so your male is like magic and like tears itself off and does like a magic, like it's like a genie. It pops off and does something really awesome and then attaches back to you when you're not using it.
The thing is, he didn't have to homebrew that because it just was a little bit of flavor added to a companion, like a familiar type of class. So it wasn't even that much of a stretch at all. Like you could
but it was that. It worked wonderfully though. It was so much fun and so cool when it happened.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing that I love most about Cypher System, is that it really is more about the creative. It's less about, like, there's a lot of rules, but it's less focused on having hard, crunchy rules to make everything work, and more interested in, like, let's make a cool setting, let's make a cool story, let's make a cool character, and let's play in that world and do whatever you want. Here's some basic kind of generic rules that will get you from point A to point B. And if some of the rules don't make sense, or they're hard to, just throw them away. Just come up with something, give it a level, fucking make your character roll, boom, you got it. Spend some fucking points. You're doing stuff, and it's very easy to like get going in that sense after character creation. Now, character creation isn't like the most easy thing because you gotta have some book like searching skills. You gotta have some character creation chops a bit to grok that process. But as long as you have one person in your group who can do that, the sky's the limit with actually getting something made and doing something really creative.
So I want to say that we got a bunch of viewers here, and thank you for watching. I wish you'd be a little more chatty so we can understand what you feel about the Cypher system. We're about to end the stream, so you don't have much time if you want to get a comment in. I think it's the time of the review where we say what we like most about the system, the most positive things we can say right now. I'll go first. And my favorite thing about the Cypher system is that NPCs are so easy to manage. that it's just a level and I can, tweak the little details other than, the big level. I can just say, hey, all the rolls are at level 3, but for like attacking with this one power, it's level 5 because that's its cool little thing that it does. And it's just, everything just works like that in a very simple way. And, I can just follow the template and I know how much damage it does, how many hit points it has. And if I don't want that to happen, if I don't want to tweak that a little, I can. I always have that option. That's my favorite part of the Cypher system. Of course, I'm a game master, so I come at from
GM focused.
Yeah, I'm a narrator. So Tarek, what is your favorite part of the Cypher system?
Easily, it is the wealth of creativity that you can bring to this game. It will fly off, or it will like work with whatever setting you want to put into it. You can come up with it's easily customizable with coming up with new types of things that you want, new focuses, new descriptors. You can pretty much homebrew as much as you'd like about it, and creativity is the limit. As long as you have somebody who's creative and passionate, you can make this work for anything. And that, I think, the universality of it is it delivers on that promise.
All right, well. Sasha.
I think so. I don't know how to describe this. I'm gonna need your help. It was part of the character like creation and usage. It was how you could pick a class basically. Like you could pick what you did. You could pick who you were. You picked like a background, and you could also like pick a flavor for your class that would like modify how you did things. I don't remember what that was called.
I think it was actually literally called a flavor.
Was it called flavor?
Yep.
That was something that I hadn't seen anywhere else, and I really enjoyed it that you could pick a flavor. I felt like that was really unique and it was really fun.
All right. I have a comment. I think that if players are hoarding XP or regretting using it on reroll, they need to shift their thinking from a game like D&D or Pathfinder. So it's the player that needs to change, not the game.
Interesting take. I think if and think of the things they can do with it if it doesn't give us examples like gaining a specific item, artifact, or a home.
I think as long as it's a permanent thing, I'm kind of fine with it. I just don't like the temporary.
Yeah, ephemeral
spending
benefits
XP for something that goes away just feels bad.
It's going to be less prioritized by players inherently because players don't want to get rid of the resources if it means they're not going to be able to grow, especially if other people aren't doing the same.
But maybe
it's basic game theory.
Maybe we need to shift our paradigm.
It's a fundamental problem. Why would you want to play a game that makes you feel bad?
Not just that, but think about it from a game theory perspective.
Hold on.
Psychologically speaking, if I'm the one who's always putting resources into the pot and everybody else is just taking resources out of the pot, I feel like I have been shortchanged because I'm always the one who's giving and never the one who's taking.
What we got to do is
everybody else gets their XP and doesn't do the thing, like it doesn't get the ephemeral benefit and instead is just gaining permanent benefits, then I feel like I'm always at a loss, and I literally am at a loss.
What happens is if you're constantly losing XP like that, what the game suggests to do is, as a game master, you give that person more XP, more opportunities to gain XP. You focus on that player more so they have more of an opportunity to catch up. Thus, they get probably more role play time than people who sit back and hoard. And I think that's the paradigm shift that we have to do here. There is, like Sasha said, there's stuff that the game master has to do and prioritize and like you have a job as a game master. Cypher just doesn't say, oh, everything's on the players now. It does have some things, and XP management and making sure that people who aren't in the right paradigm of their mind, they don't get as much as somebody who is more free and willing to do the things that they want to do to make the game great.
Yeah, I just feel like there's enough people out there who will either that will create competition.
Yeah.
And then those people will use that competition in order to game the system.
It's a problem because that still breeds discomfort between players and the players and the GM.
Yeah.
So why make a system in the first place that breeds discontent instead of just not doing that? I don't know. It just feels like poor game design to me.
I tried Commenter. I tried real hard. I gave it my best argument about it. I hope I did you proud on that.
I agree that there is value to that change in paradigm, and that the game master managing it would probably help. But I still feel like there will be a player dynamic that will feel like you're competing with each other for XP and screen time at that point, or will be like, you gave XP to this person for doing XYZ thing, and they used it for rerolls. I'm gonna do XYZ thing to get more XP, and then I'm just gonna spend.
And then I'm just gonna spend that XP on advancing myself more and not.
Yeah.
This is a very fundamental concept and philosophy that this game employs, and I don't like it. It's called Tragedy of the Commons. And this game is literally a tragedy of the commons.
Yeah. Okay,
and it's just doesn't work.
We're going to the tier list. I know for me this game is an A tier game for me, but I don't think I'm going to be able to put it in A tier. I think I'm going to get pushback here. I want to know where you guys think it goes on our tier list. Just to recap, we put 7th Sea First Edition in A. We put Dungeons and Dragons 5th Edition in A. We put Pathfinder First Edition in B, and Legend of the Five Rings Fantasy Flight Edition Legend of the Five Rings in C tier. Where does it go, Sasha?
Well, you want mine first?
We're going with yours first.
I think it goes in C.
C tier? Tarek?
This is turning out exactly how I expected. Sasha's a C, Corey's an A,
and you're a B,
and I'm a B.
B tier is.
I think it belongs in B tier, just like Pathfinder does. It has a lot of great benefits. There are some flaws that will not be for every player or every GM that will cause them to have difficulty playing this game. I think that those flaws are easily overlookable, in my opinion, but that is just my opinion. So being objective, I'd say though I would probably put this on an A tier for myself, I think it fits into B tier, and that's where it's
B tier. Interesting. I mean, I have to cut the difference between A and C and go B. I'm putting it in B tier because well,
there's 3 of us, so that makes voting easy. If there's for 3 different, it goes in the middle. If 2 people agree on one, then it goes there.
Exactly.
So it's not that hard.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
just like a C grade though on an exam, I feel like this game is just barely at a place where you could still have fun and enjoy it and have a really good time, but the rules make it real hard for me, so it goes just low.
Thank you all out there for joining us. Thank you for your comments. I'm waiting with bated breath for the hate that you're going to give us, Cypher fans, for this stream that we're doing.
It's going to go to me because I was the most critical.
Pathfinder First Edition is a really good game. Like one of my favorite games of all time, systems of all time.
Such a good game that it spawned an entire new genre of game. So it spawned a new RPG.
Yeah.
And we put it in C tier.
So if we're putting it on the same tier as Cypher is on the same tier of Pathfinder, I think you're seeing that it is a game that we really respect and enjoy. Mm-hmm. Just has some flaws. I think that's
just so you know out there. For me, I have not encountered an S tier game in my entire life. I just haven't. Maybe one day I will.
One day there will be a beautiful game that solves all of our problems.
I need to have us play a game system that I'm really, really excited for. And I think it might just be an S tier game. It might be. Maybe I can convince Corey.
All right, from all of us here, Tarek, Sasha, my name is Corey. Go out there and roll some dice.